Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Enlighten Up podcast. I am here with Carolyn Mackey, who is a hypnotherapist, teacher of love and the Course in Miracles. She's a shapeshifter, and most of all, she's one of my best friends. I'm so happy to have her on the show finally. Carolyn, welcome to Enlighten Up.
Thank you, Nikki. It's so good to be here.
It's been a long time coming.
Yes. Well, the evolution takes time.
It does. It does take time. And we have both taken many detours along the way to get to where we're at. And I think today we're going to have a really special conversation, not just about your own personal journey, but also about learning how to take the gifts that you were given intuitively, psychically, energetically, healing, and how to turn it into a business that supports you and your family. And we'll kind of go over some of the pitfalls and the struggles that we've had, but also where some of the successes have lied and how we, some of the, let's just call them self-sabotaging beliefs that hold us back from really allowing us to step more into our power. So this is something you and I have recently had a great conversation about. You were inspiring me so deeply, and it was which is what I love. I love having friends that inspire me, uplift me, and motivate me to keep pushing forward. And that is a beautiful light that you are in my life. So I'd love to share your light with the audience. So why don't you just briefly let the audience know what you're doing right now, and then we'll kind of get into where it all began, because it's quite the journey.
Yeah, it is quite the journey. And I have arrived where I am, and I continue to arrive wherever I'm going to be, so I don't see it as an official arrival, but I am definitely on my way and on the journey. And I think that's something I did discover by doing this work, was that it is an evolution and a process. And it's like, you can't really necessarily put your thumb right on it because it's expansive. If we could put our thumb on it, it wouldn't be able to expand, right? So I currently do hypnotherapy, which is the use of hypnosis for therapeutic purposes. It's not stage hypnosis. It's not for entertainment. It's actually a very effective, very profound way to shift yourself into a direction that you want to go, that maybe you feel blocked or stuck or just don't know how to get there. So hypnotherapy is amazing, and I learn so much just by practicing it every day. More and more clients, it just keeps getting more expansive and more profound. And I love it as a tool. I love it because I have all these different tools, various tools, being spiritual or not, also very, very earthly skill set as well. They all wrap up into this one form that I can deliver, help people really own their power, tap into their authentic truth, and be that, instead of just thinking about it or wishing for it.
Oh, yeah, which seems to be, I call that the mental masturbation. And it seems to be a state or a phase that a lot of us go through, and it's because we're so scared to actually take the action and fear that we may fail or we may not be as good as what we think we need to be in order to succeed. And, there's also possibly, exposing ourselves as maybe not what we say we are. I think this is a huge fear that all of us embody. And I think it's important to talk about maybe really quickly because, anytime you're working with a field that you are passionate about, that also embodies certain skills that are somewhat innate to you, but are also not readily accepted within the entire scope of this world, within an
Mm.
industry, is difficult to really kind of step through because it's not like you can go to college or university for what we do. There is a lot of this just comes from potentially what you've been born with, but also enhanced through a lot of experience in your own development journey, healing, life experiences. So,
Amen.
have
Amen to that.
I mean, I know there were tons of times I felt like I'm a fraud, like I'm a fraud. You have these thoughts because you put so much judgment on yourself, comparing yourself to the other people who've probably been doing it 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and you're not there. But we all have to start somewhere. And I think we mistaken this persona that we put on ourselves, or this view that we're not who we say we are, when really we are, but we're having to shed through a lot of the fears to reveal that. And so we kind of battle with that voice inside that's like, everyone's gonna see that you're not this, but that's really not the truth. It's just the ego wanting to stay safe.
Exactly. It does want you to stay safe and small, the ego, right? It doesn't want you to own your power because then you'll light up other minds. And that's what's happening is we are actually humans who are actually beings of infinite love. We are actually both. And so not one or the other. It's like that makes me feel like a fraud, but in truth, we are only being asked to share our light at the level we are at because there
Exactly.
are people that will see our light and light up from our light, just no matter what level. Like, levels aren't even important. Some lights might be small, but it's bigger than this light. It's all about lighting it up.
It is, and I think it's important to remember that we all have to start somewhere, and it's actually asinine to think that you're going to be at some level that is your ultimate truth or your ultimate end goal. Like it's never an end goal. It's like you were saying in the beginning. You have been arriving and you continue to arrive. And I think that's the beauty of the journey. And a lot of times we're waiting for that final destination persona to emerge in order for us to be ready to launch whatever it is that we're trying to launch, and it's never going to be that.
No, and somebody said the other day, and I've heard it a bunch of times, but when it was spoken the other day that I heard it, it was the right time for me to hear it clearly, and it was, don't strive for perfection, strive for quality. And it's like, oh yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that a lot, but I've never gotten to let it sink in. And that just sunk in. Like, perfection is the ego's trick to get you to not do it at all, because ego wants you to stay small and separate and safe.
Perfectionism is a disguise for procrastination.
Right.
That's all it is. It's like, I'm not procrastinating. I just know I want to get this and this and this done and that and that and that done, and then I'll be ready. It's not the case. So,
Guilty.
yeah,
Yeah, I've
I've
totally done that.
totally guilty myself. Okay, so let's get into your journey because you had a pretty traumatic childhood. And I feel like those of us who've been through quite a bit of trauma earlier on in life are set to become healers or meant to be healers in some nature in our adult life. So, why don't you share with the audience what it was like for you during that time?
Yes, I dropped into a body, and by the age of 5, my entire world was blown apart when my parent, my father, he commits suicide. And I was like 5 years old. Didn't even know what the implication of having a father meant. And I already had to deal with the implications of losing one.
What was your relationship
And at
what was your relationship like with your father before he passed?
to be honest, I don't really remember.
Mm.
I don't have a clear vision or memory of my relationship with my dad. I have more memories of what I think about my dad because throughout my life, I would see pictures and then I would get to make a story, right? Oh, he must be this really great guy. He's smiling in this picture and like I can actually create a story. So the things that I remember about him are my own memories that I've created about him, if that makes sense.
And well, it does, considering the fact that whenever you're going through something that traumatic, we usually disassociate from the source of pain, which would have been any memories of your father that would result in a deeper feeling of loss now that he's gone.
Yes.
So
Yep.
take us through the day that it happened, like that you can recall, that it's in within your memory band right now.
I actually feel really lucky that I was 5, right? My sister was not. My sister was 9 at the time. So her perception of what was going on was a lot more traumatic because she already had things established that broke. At 5, I hadn't established a whole lot of knowing, but
That you can remember.
that I can remember consciously. So I remember that my sister and I were at my aunt and uncle's house to just stay over. In hindsight, we now know dad was missing for 2 days. So we were having a sleepover and we were just trying to find him. And it turns out they did find him. He had shot himself in front of the police station. So he actually drove his car up and in the car shot himself so that the police could find him really quickly. So that was
Wow.
good thinking ahead, I suppose. Um, but they didn't find him. My aunt found him, which is really strange. Really strange. The aunt that we were staying with somehow was the person who found my dad's car and
At the police station.
at the police station. She was like either going to the library or something, saw the car, found my dad. So that was an interest. I guess that's really interesting in hindsight about what are the chances, right? But when they found out that he had killed himself, they brought us back to my house. And I remember sitting on the stairs of our tri-level. We were like sitting on the lower stairs and it was like the police and the chaplain guy was like, your dad's not coming home. And I saw the pain in everybody's faces and everybody's eyes. I saw how sad and how hurt people were. And to me, it was like not quite real yet, not really understanding. But I vividly remember thinking, oh man, people are not happy anymore. Like now people are not happy. And then that feeling didn't lift. It never lifted. People in my family, my very small family, me, my sister, and my mom, because we had extended family not close by. What was I saying? I don't even remember what I was saying.
Well, you were saying that no one was happy, and like
Yeah, nobody was, and it was clear that this was a very bad thing that's happened, right? So I knew it was very bad. I just didn't really understand, but I did remember thinking, wow, one thing happened and everybody's happiness and joy is gone.
okay,
Gone.
that's a big realization to have at 5 years old and to have imprinted into your subconscious when you don't fully
Yeah.
understand exactly what's going on. Because
Right.
You kind of took on the responsibility for everyone else's happiness after that, didn't you?
I think I did innocently.
Yeah.
Innocently, I wanted to keep playing, and innocently, I didn't want them to be sad. And at that time, it was like, it was just so confusing. It was just so confusing. The things that we thought were stable in our lives, even the church that we attended, like that wasn't a thing anymore. That in 1986 was seen as a very, like, he committed a sin by doing that. And so it was almost alienated us even further from the church.
Oh, so you guys were kind of banished in a way.
Like without it official, it's
Yeah.
not ever official, right?
No, yeah, I know. Yeah. But it was kind of,
Yeah, loving churchy people, people who believe in God and this loving energy are the people who are not treating us like
without judgment.
without judgment, right?
Hmm.
We were kind of the victims. We were kind of a
It's
victim of
kind of
that.
crazy that you guys are the victims of something that was not your doing, and yet you had to carry that shame. That's a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot of shame. And immediately I realized by second grade, because I think that my dad killed himself between first and second grade. So first grade, I had a dad. Second grade, I didn't have a dad. And when I came back, it was like I was like this thing in the room that nobody wanted to talk about. And to me, I was just me. And but I learned based on people's just the way they responded or reacted to me that my story makes people pretty uncomfortable and it's not something you want to talk about. And from a very, very, very young age, I just don't haven't shared a lot of my personal story. And that's probably, I mean, it's not eloquent, I don't think. I don't know, maybe it's fine. It's fine. But it's because I don't have a well-practiced story about this. I don't talk about it. Never really
Well,
have.
you're only, even to your defense, there's only certain things that have been coming up recently that you're starting to realize the implications of that one particular event and how that shaped who you are today and have been, and the struggles that you've been encountering as a result of it.
Amazing stuff. And I want to thank you because I do process verbally. And when I'm coming to all of these realizations, because it all of my lessons come in spiritually and through my business and through my personal life, it all feels like it's all related, right? It doesn't feel separate to me. And I got to, as I am arriving at my destination every single day, it is amazing what I'm learning. And so to share that with somebody who has seen me and knows my heart and knows my intention, knows my direction. Like I even maybe, you see my direction, even though I don't paint it perfectly clear always. It's just like getting to process out loud that, oh my gosh, my worthiness has been damaged from a very, very young age. It's so deep and it's from such a young age that my realization was almost like, wow, this is something that I've known, but I haven't looked at. I haven't looked at because I didn't even, it was how I was shaped and how I decided, and all my choices that I made led up to these moments where I'm realizing, oh my gosh, you know why I'm, you know, in business, here are some of my roadblocks, and they directly relate to that incident of not feeling connected or supported
What
or like anybody's ever gonna have be happy again. Like to see everybody's happiness disappear was just like, oh, and it just never wanted to, never came back.
what would you say is the biggest roadblock that you've uncovered from, like, within your business that relates to that incident?
So I've realized going into a business of service, that's spiritual especially, it really tests your own worthiness because, us healers, we've been healing people from the day we could talk. We've been sharing our gifts since the beginning, and we have been serving and helping people. Shifting into the mindset of being valued and paid for what we do contribute is not, that's a fair exchange. That's a fair exchange. It's not unfair to ask for what you need,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my needs, I because of my experiences, I haven't even looked at my own needs. I just kind of float along, managing and expecting to manage it as it comes along without looking at it kind of like with a proactive forward look, because I just didn't know better. And being in a business for myself, something I have to learn quick. I have to learn quick because you can't have a business with no clients. If you have no money coming in, it's not a business.
No, it isn't.
So what am I? Am I a friend who has a lot of good advice, or am I going to be in business for myself?
Yeah.
And my worthiness of receiving abundance is directly related to my feeling loss from my dad and thinking, well, I just must not deserve to have everything I want and need. This isn't a natural state. From the very beginning, limitation seemed like a more natural
Well, when
state.
we think about it, the father, and this is something I go over in my inner child course within the second module, is the father energy. And the father energy is the root chakra. And of course, the first 7 years of our life are designated by the root chakra. And the father energies represent safety, security, protection, guidance, direction. And you lost all of that. And in a way, a business is designed, what its purpose is to support you, to offer you a direction of purpose in your life. To also, in order to have a successful business, you need to have structure in place. And it also provides you security and safety for you and your family if you have one. And I say that to anyone. And so when you don't have the foundations of that, or whatever you did receive is kind of blocked out from a very painful experience, then it can be very difficult to apply your abundance into a business that will support you, because when something like that happens, when the father is not present in the life, whether it's actually physically not present or just emotionally not present or available, that we start to believe that safety and security is not a need of ours. It's not necessary, and we make it a non-issue. But truly, it really is an issue. But we tell ourselves that because to to know that we are being denied a need is too difficult to accept. And so we just pretend that it isn't a need and we don't want it or we don't need it. And that is a very destructive belief to take on when it comes to creating safety and stability in your life, especially through the means of becoming a business owner.
That is so profound, Nicole. What you just said really resonates with me. Really, really, really does. It's like a continuation of our conversation the other day. Yes, I have known that about myself, that as a result of losing my dad, structure, all these very divine masculine qualities were missing. And I have to learn those. And what a better place to learn them than in a business of purpose. Amen. Like, oh my God, see, God love is so good, so good that, like better than we could have expected it. But that doesn't mean it's not challenging. and it's not hard. But I'm telling you, what I do learn about structure and what I do realize sticks. It stays because I really am learning it through my experiences, right? Nobody can tell you that. And you can't get it on a level by just being told. You have to experience it. And this is a very wonderful, beautiful way to heal my own feeling of disconnection from my divine masculine or father energy. It's giving it to myself like you do in your inner child class. It's like, this is what we're talking about. And thank God I have my business to do it in.
So in a way,
Thank
your
God.
business is allowing you to reconnect to the masculine energies, the divine masculine energies, but also in a way your father.
In a way, I'm getting to put together a father energy that supports me.
Exactly.
And yes, I do feel that. I do feel that. And it's interesting because I mean, he was in the military, so that contributed to his illness, but also his fear of money was part of the reason he checked out. And I also think, being that it's in my cells, it's in my DNA, I'm getting an opportunity because I'm aware of it to heal that worthiness for me and him. It's so much more profound than clocking in at work to work for somebody else, right? Like, this is hard and it's not easy. It's just, there's
Yeah.
a lot of layers to spirituality, to business, to personal growth. And so you want to squish them all together and really have a good time, party like crazy, like get really party down. Do it all
So
at
this
once.
is really interesting and beautiful, and I love how this is all coming together because you said something earlier too that I think is really important that I had never even thought about myself, that those of us who are healers today have likely been healing since we were children. We just didn't know it because as empaths do make some of the best healers. And it's because we operate on a different language beyond just the words that someone may be sharing with us or what we may see with our own eyes in body language, but we can tap into that field of feeling that not everyone is aware of or knows how to read. And as children, we know how to, whether we're conscious of it or not, a lot of us times as children, we're not conscious of it, but we know how to manage the energy of the room. We know how to manage the other energy of other people through our own actions and how we either avoid certain things or make things happen in order to settle the energy into a place that is more comfortable for us and what we think is more comfortable for everyone else just by reading the room. And if you've been doing that your entire life, then it can be very difficult to make that transition into realizing that your gifts that are God given are worthy of you being paid for. And I think one of the issues here that just drives me nuts in the spiritual community is that if you are given a gift by God, that you shouldn't be charging money for it. And I think that all gifts that we have, whether they're spiritual in nature or not, are gifts from God. I think a painter has been given a gift from God. Does that mean that they should just paint paintings and give them away for free? I think that we're meant to utilize our gifts, not what people tell us we should do, so that we can support ourselves in this world. And I think that if we lived in a world where everyone was, using their gifts to support their life and their families and feel proud of that, that we would live in a very different world.
Oh, I pray that I see that day. Maybe in this lifetime, maybe in the next, but that would be such a heart-based society, as if people really I think I read something somewhere. It was like, if we all did our personal gift to our fullest 4 hours a day, it would be enough to sustain the entire world. Just like everybody would win. And that makes sense to me. It's like when you are doing something you love, it's done with the power of creation and the whole universe because it's heart centered, and that's worthy, that's valuable, that's, in the world of form, money exchange is a thing. We're not exempt from that because we're spiritual, or we do spiritual things.
Yeah.
It's like,
what did you tell yourself when you got to this point where you're like, you know what, it's time to, basically shit or get off the pot, in a sense of opening your business in a way that supports you with all your spiritual gifts that you've been given through God?
yeah, it was that going through with doing it, not worrying about the outcome. I knew that when I could not worry about the person's opinion of how well I served them, it was kind of like my knowing got so deep that how I show up and what tools I have to help serve, that confidence got so strong that I was like, if they don't like this service, if it's not a good fit, if they don't like me, if it didn't work, that's perfect. That's exactly how it's supposed to be, because I'm not the one supposed to. I just because I'm a helper doesn't mean I'm supposed to help everyone. I'm only supposed to be helping the ones who are sent. The ones who are sent. And that does get tricky when you're doing a marketing funnel.
Yeah.
Spirituality and marketing doesn't go together because, but it can. And when it's heart centered, and when you're healing yourself through your actions, maybe it's starting a business, maybe it's taking care of your family, maybe it's going to school. I don't know, but we can all do that with love, and from a place of joining and a place of wanting to heal or connect or transcend what we've already done. So we know what we've done. Let's play in the new realm, making new heart-based decisions and following your dream, putting what you love into the world, even if it's not full time yet. Even if you're employed, you have a gift. You have a gift, and it's specific and it's perfect, and just the way you do it is the way the world needs it. And there's very specific people who need you to show up just like you. And so that's the energy where you actually just love your work, you trust your work, you trust the work being done through you. It is not an easy place to get to.
No.
It just takes showing up,
And
dedication, practice.
exactly. And this is something that you and I have been able to observe in one another over the years. You watching me growing my business online, and me getting to watch you grow your business now, and just the discovery and the journey that it's taken. And both you and I have struggled at varying different times with understanding the full direction of where we're going and exactly what it looks like. And there are common pitfalls that a lot of people will fall into when it comes to wanting to start your own business, a spiritually based business. And I think part of that is that it's it almost feels counterintuitive to marry something that's so deeply, profoundly spiritual within you with the material world. But that is because we've been programmed with a lot of martyrdom complexes through spirituality and varying religions that will make
Mhm.
sure that we don't step into that power and that light. And so, how did you, like, what shifted for you in the last year? Because you've made some really big changes in the last year when it comes to your business. where you finally started to see some growth and you started to get some traction. What would you say is the defining factor or moment that really shifted that all for you?
You know, this is really, you probably don't even know this and you'll like this. We were at one of the events that one of our friends did with her own studio work. Rachel, our friend Rachel, who's a wonderful photographer, she was doing an event and she did this wonderful event that she just like blasted through, I don't know, like 100 clients, and she did it in a certain amount of time, and she really made this project for herself. And I really just was inspired by that. I was like, I want to do a project. I want to get myself really, really invested in my business and just serve people. And so it wasn't about, I wasn't thinking about like going out and making money. I thought about how do I reach the most people in the most amount of time. And so I did put on a promotion to launch my business. And I was trying to reach 100 clients in 3 months. So I literally kind of just got inspired and did that thing. But what it did was it pushed me into the realm of just working my business, not thinking about working my business. Because that's where I think us spiritual people get really derailed. And it's a constant practice. It's like you have to have both. You have to have spiritual and practical, and you have to be really good at balancing, and maybe even they don't necessarily balance, but managing them, managing them both concurrently, acknowledging both are valid.
Yes. Yeah. And Rachel was very inspiring. She was so inspiring. She really put herself out there because she was in a position where it's make it or break it time. If this doesn't work, I have to fold up, like this is where it ends. And she really put her money where her heart was, and she put it where her mouth was when she was saying, no, I can do this business. I believe in myself. And it required her to invest a certain amount of money into herself, to take a specific course, to learn how to do this, to create this marketing program that she did that allowed her to expand into all these different clients and create this project that both you and I were part of. And watching her work, it was very inspiring, very inspiring. And I think it really, you're right. It did open my eyes too to the amount of work and investment that it would require in order to do that. And I think we maybe get a little bit frightened of the financial investment that it may require, and what if it fails? What if it fails? I've been there. I remember in the from 2012 to 2015, I was trying to start my own business where I required a large investment. I wanted to open up a wellness center, 2 wellness centers, and I had invested over that period of time whatever I could. And, it wasn't a huge amount of money. It was $30,000, which is a good chunk of money, but to a lot of people, it may not seem like that much. But for me, it was a lot of money. I'd never invested that kind of money into anything before, not even my first condo that I bought. The first condo I bought, I was able to buy for 10 grand. And so this was a huge investment. And the reality is I had to walk away without anything to show for that. And I put air quotes around that because I had a lot to show for it. There was a lot of wisdom that I gained through that experience that I now am applying to my online business, and understanding what it took. There's a lot that I learned in that way, but I think we forget that our business has to be treated like a small child, like a baby, and we have to give it everything we've got, all of our time, all of our energy, all of our love. And it's got to get to a point where it's semi self-sufficient, or at least can start running on its own a little bit, so that we're not having to be there 24/7 hands on. And it requires a lot of work to do that, a lot of work. And I think for whatever reason, a lot of people in healing or spiritual businesses are scared of the work, which is crazy because we do the healing work. You know, we do a lot of the deep dive shadow work, but when it comes to the business, it's almost like it creates a trigger of fear. Like, I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not cut out for this. I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's like, you just got to figure it out. You got to learn.
That was true for me. I definitely was like, my heart is in it and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm committed 100%, 110%. So like, you got to just be so committed that you're willing to learn the hard way if you have to. But it's so rewarding because your own learning process and healing process can contribute to the success of your business. It does.
Now, would you say that because you and I are very similar in one of our biggest priorities and needs, and we made it it's one of our needs, so we've made it one of our big priorities, is flexibility slash freedom to live the way we want to live on our time, right?
Yes.
That
Yes.
can also provide a bit of a challenge when you're wanting to have a business that's stable and secure and provides you enough support to take care of yourself month to month, where you don't have to like be thinking about whether are you going to make ends meet this month or that month. Do you recognize any kind of self-sabotaging beliefs that were hidden within this idea of, well, I just need to be free, I want my freedom, and that's the most important, so I can't let this infringe upon that, because then I'm not being true to myself?
Yes. Yes. That's a tricky little balance. It's so tricky. You know, because the freedom you get is the freedom to do it your way. It doesn't mean you don't get to work and contribute. You know, it's like, it's just, do you want to do it by somebody else's instructions or do you want to do it on your own instructions? I do feel like my freedom of time is the carrot, but when I'm home and supposed to be working, that freedom can be very distracting as well. It can be the thing that stops my business from becoming really, really successful because I cherish the freedom so much. But I have to remember there's freedom in structure. Money loves structure. And yeah, I think that's my whole thought.
Yeah,
My whole
it
thought.
is tricky. It's one of those ones where I think a lot of people struggle from, that kind of relate to this, because you know, you don't want you, obviously, if you're going to work for yourself and you want to support yourself, you got to do some work. You know, it's there's got to be work. And I think sometimes, I've seen it in different ways, where some people are like, well, I just want to do the bare minimum. But the bare minimum is also an excuse to not allow yourself to see what you're truly made of. It's like you want to stay small. And if any of you are finding yourself like, well, I just only need this much in order to be happy, or whatever it is, truly, your work is about supporting you and your lifestyle, but it's more than that. That's only part of the equation. Uh, we're all not we're not driven to work just to take care of our physical needs and like our financial needs, but also we're driven by a desire to contribute into the society, to have a purpose that's meaningful, that leaves
Mhm.
some sort of legacy behind in some way, whether it's you're building something or you're leaving your legacy in people's hearts or their health, whatever it might be. And in order for you to be able to understand what you're capable of, you're going to have to push past certain barriers and limitations that you currently are embodying. And those limitations are there to basically give you a blueprint of challenges that you get to decide whether or not you're going to take them on and grow, or be a victim to the challenges and stay exactly where you are, which is ultimately not what energy typically likes when it comes from like an energy. When we talk about the movement of energy, energy always likes to be moving. And it's okay. Sometimes there's contraction phases and sometimes there's expansion phases. You're going to have both. That's just the cycles of energy. But if you're never allowing yourself to expand and you're like, I'm just content where I am right now, I don't need anything more, I'm perfectly happy with the way everything is, that's a stagnant energy. And I would say that that kind of energy or perception of what your needs are or what you really want may be an excuse to keep you from recognizing how big you possibly could be in this world.
Yes, absolutely. It's just another way that staying small, not joining, not sharing your gifts, not being authentically true to you, it's like not fulfilling your role. Your role is so unique and perfect to you that it's important. It's important that you nurture and show up just how you are. And everybody, each one of us.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I know might be misconstrued when I say it. I can already hear some of the voices like, "No, I'm totally fine. Like I only need a certain amount." And it's like it's not about you only needing a certain amount to live happily. Listen, you living happily, say at a $50,000 income a year or $100,000 income a year, whatever it may be, compared to what the world thinks is much more expansive, is totally fine. That's totally fine, you know? But what I'm talking about is, are you using it to hold yourself back from discovering what you're truly capable of? Because you can still push yourself to deliver more and learn more without it having to affect your finances. And maybe it will actually make them even better and make you even more comfortable without it actually being the reason why you did it, but it's just an after effect, like it's just like there's the cause and there's the effect, but the intention was always about your own personal growth. And I think it's a valid question that many of us need to ask ourselves. Am I using that as an excuse to stay small?
Yes, I challenge everybody who's listening to maybe investigate that for themselves. I know that it's been true for me personally. I actually was choosing to stay small and unknowingly choosing to stay small, not looking at my finances proactively as a business owner, saying, when the money comes in, I can look at it and organize it, but not looking at it proactively and saying, this is what I need to pay myself and to keep the expenses paid, and like look at it and then call it in. My question for people, because I've been there, is why don't you think you deserve more? Like, I'm satisfied with status quo is super spiritual. I get it. But also, I challenge you to think that perhaps your natural state is abundance. And unless you are completely overflowing secure, you're not in your natural state. So it's like, to not want infinite abundance is not natural. Your natural state is to have everything and anything you need at the time you need, when you need it, all the time. And that's our natural state. I think my favorite metaphor is the strawberry, because a strawberry has so many tiny little seeds, but one single berry can expand into a whole garden. And so that's the natural state of the world. The natural state is abundance. And so Why don't you believe you deserve more? And is status quo keeping you comfortable because you're afraid? What is that? Because that's what mine has been. Mine has actually been, I'm going to choose away from luxury because I think it's keeping me safe. I think if I choose away from luxury, I I have more control. I don't have as much to carry with me, right?
Well, why don't we share that a little bit, because there's a reason, like your life when your dad was still around was very comfortable. You lived in a very comfortable neighborhood, um,
Mm-hmm.
a well-off neighborhood, and then he passes away and all of that changes.
Yes, yes. And in my hypnotherapy practice, I kind of discovered the actual event was when we sold the house that we all lived in. My mom chose out of that house because she believed she couldn't afford it. So she was carrying on that energy of, we can't afford it, we need to leave. And we did sell the house. And she told me the other day she thought it was a mistake and she did try to back out of the deal, but it was already done. So we ended up moving. And at that time, I was like, okay, so once we lost that, we are no longer deserving of our house. We now have to downsize. And why? Like there was just fear. There wasn't an actual monetary reason. She was actually she was given money because he passed away. So it's like the money actually showed up. Um,
She was planning for a future that wasn't necessarily destined.
no, she selectively moved away from it in fear, which is what I ended up doing in my teens, like 18. I decided to leave home because the chaos and the conflict and all of that, I just wanted out. And I really made the decision to say, all of this looks good, it's comfortable, it's nice, but I'm not happy. And I thought by giving that up, I could be happy. So I put into contract in accidentally, I put into a contract that it can only be one or the other. And so I'm learning now that, oh, I can have it all. I don't have to give up comfort. I don't have to give up luxuries. I don't have to even give up my preferences. I don't have to. I can have what I want if I
Yeah.
choose it.
And I mean, there's a couple things there that the child, the little girl within you is dealing with is one, you never want to feel that loss again. And so if you never have too much to lose, then you never have to worry about having that feeling again. I mean, there's one of the things. And then the other one is that idea where you recognized no one's happy right now. No one's happy. And the only way that normalcy started to return was when you moved away. And so moving somehow translates into allowing happiness to come back in.
Yeah. And relinquishing all of the things, you know, my happiness isn't in stuff. It's not in stuff. So that's definitely not what we're saying, right? But it's like if abundance and freedom and joy is our natural state, anything that we're experiencing that's not like that is not real and it's not who we really are. So I really, really didn't even realize that I chose that. I chose out of abundance and decided that, well, all this abundance isn't making anybody happy here, right? They have everything they need and they're not happy. But reconciling that by learning how to receive and, you know, giving people help and advice and coaching or whatever, receiving for that feels amazing. And it's like they were going to pay somebody, might as well be me, you know, and to receive that and realize I can have it both. I can receive, I don't know.
No, it's interesting because a lot of us do think in a form of it's this or it's that. And we have to choose between two as opposed to choosing at all.
It was a total
Yeah.
mistake. I didn't even realize until like this last week that I did that. And I was telling Nicole, wow, wow. And because I did that, I can undo
Mm.
it. I can decree it to be the other way now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I really always love about you too is that you are really good at not allowing yourself to be tricked into the victim of your reality. You know, and
Oh, I
I
thank
think a
you.
lot of your Course in Miracles uh, teachings that you've been reading up on over the years, as well as teaching to others, I think play a big role in that because I victimhood is a very tricky state of mind and state of being that is so easily slipped into, we don't even realize it. The best of us get caught in it. And I feel like we're in a time right now where we're all being called to truly face the victimhood perpetrator within us. There is a victimhood perpetrator within us all that wants to continuously point the finger at something else in our reality as the cause of our circumstances. And of course, it's the first thing that we do when we give our power away is to do that. And it is something that causes us to lose our sovereignty instantly. And so for you, what is one of the things that you use to remind yourself when you find yourself slipping into that victimhood mentality?
Oh, guys, I have a shortcut that I use and I'll share it. Doesn't mean you'll want to use it because it's gangster. When I start slipping into victimhood and I realize it, you know, if I'm asleep and doing victimhood and it's going on and there's no interruption, then I'm in the victimhood. But if I catch it, I say, oh, woo, there's that energy of judgment where I think they are they are doing something to make me lose my peace. That sounds like a victim because I don't want my peace to be dependent on anything outside of myself. So my shortcut is as soon as I realize that I'm judging whatever's happening as like, oh, poor me, I say, I'm experiencing this just to bless it. I just need to bless it. It's coming up as resistance or conflict or attack, judgment. It needs blessed because more attack, more judgment just makes it worse. So anything that's coming up to disturb my peace needs blessed. So it's like, yeah, but how do you figure out what to do? And it's like, that's not part of the process. What's happening is going to happen and it's happening already and it's already determined. But your peace about it is what I would focus on because that's how you transmute and forgive and not become a victim. When I change my mind about being attacked and I say, oh, that attack wasn't justified, right? I'm a victim, poor me. Then I can shortcut and say, well, where have I attacked somebody else? even if it was not recent, maybe it was even a past life. There's a reason this energy is still trapped in my field of awareness, and I'm feeling it and I'm experiencing it. So I need to bless it. I need to let it go or see it correctly in a way that doesn't create more, doesn't keep it stuffed, allows it to be released, changed, transmuted.
And another kind of realization that you can make too, or correlation, I should say, is where am I attacking myself in my life that this would be mirrored back to me? Where is the judgment?
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, it's not easy to want to just bless things. Most people want to judge and analyze and figure it out and put it in its box.
Would you say when you say I'm blessing it, are you giving gratitude for it?
What I'm doing is withholding my opinion.
Mm.
Blessing is withholding opinion. It's like, oh, I'm going to just let that be what it is.
So not needing to change it, not needing to do anything with it. Just observe it.
Not have an opinion, just observe it. Let that exist. When we squash it or when we fight it or when we ignore it,
That's an important practice because when we can get to a state where we're able to just be the observer and observe something that normally we would either make it a positive thing or a negative thing, we would judge it as this or judge it as that. Because even if we say it's a good thing, we're still judging it. And when we refrain from doing that, we're learning to be in this reality without having to add our own definition to it. Like, just let it be and observe without defining.
That's pure freedom. That's freedom and that's love, to not have to have an opinion on it.
Oh, this world desperately needs like a 24-hour period of no opinions.
Oh, we would cease to exist.
Oh my
The
goodness.
moment our sonship has no opinions, we would cease to exist. That's right. That's the
Oh
goal.
my goodness. Could you imagine if we all went on an opinion detox?
We would be so peaceful.
Let's make that okay. For anyone who's listening right now, and you're in my alchemy program, or you're not, you don't even have to be, but we're going to be starting our next 30-day challenge. And I'm going to challenge you all to add this opinion detox to your 30-day challenge, where every day you allow yourself to not have an opinion about something you normally would and observe it. And of course, there's going to be multiple opportunities throughout your day for opinions. Trust me. When you start to observe how many opinions you actually have, it'll blow your mind. But use this opinion detox as an opportunity to allow something to exist without your perception needing to be imprinted upon it.
Is that even a thing? See, we don't even think that's a thing.
Oh my God.
Most people have never experienced the world without suspending judgment or without judgment.
So and I guess not having an opinion too, being the observer is an important component to hypnotherapy, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
how has the hypnotherapy transformed your perception on the healing journey for others and yourself?
Oh my gosh. Well, hypnotherapy, I've been on my healing journey forever, for as long as I can remember. But I'm always interested in growing or healing more. And I I think I've done it a lot my way, in my own way, and been doing healing. But when I found hypnotherapy, there was this feeling of somebody who could be present with me and help me through that in a way that is still very centered around my own experience and my ecology and map of the world. So it's like, wow, hypnotherapy, when I was training and receiving hypnotherapy through my training, it was so helpful, and it really speeds up the process. It really speeds up healing and clarity of vision and like getting around that resistance. I have so many people say, I'm just blocked. There's something stuck. I got to get around it. It's fear, it's resistance. It's always the same thing for any client. Whatever they think is they don't know what the block is. I know what the block is. It's fear or resistance. It's some form of that. And so with hypnotherapy, you can get around that. And it's so powerful, so effective, and it's so accessible. We're delving into human rights, right? Like, it doesn't require medicine. It doesn't require a whole lot of time even. So me doing the work and seeing the benefit was like, oh my God, I could have used this for a very long time. I wish I had known about this. I hadn't even known about hypnotherapy. So just realizing and appreciating that you can hurry your process along with help, with somebody who is working with you, but you're really in control in guiding this process because it's your own subconscious mind that we journey through.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes our ego has to get out of the way. And it's very difficult for the ego to get out of the way when we're just in a normal state of being versus guided through hypnotherapy. And I think there's a level of surrender that is promoted through hypnotherapy sessions. I know I've done one session with you, and it kind of feels like there's a little bit more permission to go past the deeper layers that like you said, there's fear and resistance that don't let us penetrate those layers, but it's almost like the hypnotherapy creates a back door.
It does. That's exactly what it does, is it creates the back door so you don't have to get through that resistance or around it even. It just eliminates the resistance so that you can really get down to the work. In fact, after doing hypnotherapy for a while, I really do question some of the traditional forms of therapy, talk therapy. Like, really, what are maybe we know more now that about where our power and where our truths are really stored. Why would we be playing in the surface anyway, when changing the surface, when it's at the root or the depth of who you really are, is where all the work should and can be done.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, I see it as, your subconscious is the club, and your ego's the bouncer, and your wounding is the other bouncer. And you're standing in line, wanting to kind of get in, and you're realizing that the bouncers are saying, no, sorry, clubs, no entry here, not in this line. You're going to have to come back another time. And you start walking around the building and you realize there's a back door here. And to me, hypnotherapy is your way past the bouncers of your ego and your wounding, your fears.
That's hilarious. That is exactly right. Yes. The ego is the bouncer, and you just gotta not even deal with that, because
you got to get into club subconscious.
Yes, club subconscious.
Yeah, because when you think about it, dancing in itself and the music creates an altered state of reality for a lot of us. And it allows us, when we're in that movement, to just kind of release and let go. So it is kind of like a nightclub in many ways. It's kind of funny.
Right?
It's kind of funny. But,
Great.
So let my audience know if they are interested in maybe doing a session with you, how they can find you. And if you got anything else going on, any courses, please let them know.
Yeah. So if you are interested in hypnotherapy, I am definitely interested in talking to you more about what that looks like for you. And you can get into a free intake with me, 20-30 minutes online, from my website. My website's carolynshares.com. You will find on there a place to get a free intake and consultation, because I give that to everybody. And that way we know if this is something that feels like a good fit or you even want to try. That way we could schedule you in, and it doesn't have to be in person. It can be online, equally as effective. And we do the first session usually takes about an hour, and they're not usually done together. They're done at 2 separate times. But yes, getting past the bouncer, the fear, the resistance, to help get you to that shift, get you that next level.
Yes. So if any of yes.
And if you love what I talk about when I'm talking about the Course in Miracles and love and forgiveness and all that juicy stuff, you can also find me online. I do 2 classes a week, one on Thursday and one on Sunday. And they're free classes. You can drop in. I record them and I post them on YouTube also. But they are live sessions where we get to hear the material, the wisdom text together, and we save time, join in the truth. Almighty companions are welcome. And if that feels if you're attracted to that idea, come check it out. I love having new faces too.
Awesome. So I will leave all of the links for people to connect with you in the description below this video and in the podcast show notes. And if any of you guys are interested in getting in through the back door of Club Subconscious, then Carolyn may just be the door opener for you that works for you. So thanks, sweetie, for coming on the show. It was great to have you here. And to my audience, I love you all so much. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.